So when it comes to Ubisoft, they don't really have the most spectacular reputation, from their handling of the Assassin's Creed series to almost killing Rainbow Six Siege and The Division. They really don't have a good reputation to behold. But if there's one game series that always holds a special place in my heart, I'm gonna have to say it's the Watch Dogs series. So I don't know, for years, since 2014, I've played all 3 Watch Dogs games. I beat them multiple times and everything like that, and they're very fun to me. I go back and play them all the time. So I figured, why not do this video and just rank them from my least favorite to my absolute favorite. So some of these decisions may shock you, some of them may not, but let's just get the video started.
Even when I make it rain, I make a statement. Let the rain fall on my enemies. Fall on my enemies. Let the rain fall on my enemies.
Starting off with my least favorite, we're gonna go with 2020's Watch Dogs Legion. So pretty much the game that's been considered the one to kill off the Watch Dogs franchise, with Ubisoft having no plans or making no money to even make another one that's been reported. But you know what, Watch Dogs Legion, even though it's my least favorite game, I still enjoy it, but I can say that this game has major flaws. One of the things that was marketed heavily in this game was the fact that you can play as any NPC. You can play as any character in the game. If you want to play as an older lady, if you want to play as a random construction worker or doctor, you can play it. But see, the problem with that, in theory, it's kind of a cool thing. It's like a little NPC game. The problem is that when it comes to a lot of the emotional moments or even some of the cinematic moments, a lot of the dialogue feels like NPC dialogue because you're playing as an NPC, so you don't have a centralized character. And even the addition of, Aiden and Wrench from Watch Dogs 2 and 1, I felt they were a good addition to have more of a centralized story, so your character has more of a personality. However, when they get slotted into some of the dialogues that you do in the base game, if you don't have the DLC Bloodline, it still feels like NPC dialogue. Not to mention, a lot of the gameplay mechanics were very, repetitive. It was easy, like, hey, go download this, go destroy this, take down this VIP, stuff like that, and it was just very dumb. The story was also a bit stupid as well. I like the concept of the resistance in London having to rebuild after they get framed for a terrorist attack, and the mystery on who Zero Day is kind of intriguing, but after like halfway to the story or even beginning, you kind of already realize who's behind Zero Day, and it's really not that climactic, like this big twist, but it's kind of been built out if you've really been paying attention. That's not to say there aren't some elements in the game that are actually really good. So besides all I've mentioned before, I actually kind of like the combat in the system. It was simplified, but it was actually pretty cool what they were able to do with that. Another addition would have to be probably to the permadeath option. So as you're playing with everyone, you may have favorites that you play with. If you want to add an extra challenge, while picking the difficulty easy, normal, or hard, you can have permadeath, which when your character dies, they don't respawn. They are dead off. They're killed off in the game. And then they added resistance mode. In resistance mode, you go super hardcore. It's like a super veteran mode. With permadeath on, it really makes you strategic and really wants you to make the smart choices when you're playing the game. And I'll also add the DLC for the game, Bloodline, is actually awesome. You play as Aiden Pierce, who goes to London and has to work with Wrench and his nephew, Jackson, and it's a really good addition to the story. It takes place months before the mainline story, and in a way, this feels like what they probably wanted to do for a new game. Just focus on Wrench and Aiden in London during the time of this. I think that would have been better, having one of those two characters as a centralized character in the main storyline, but unfortunately we didn't get that. Once again, it's a shame because Watch Dogs Legion had so much potential, but if this is the last Watch Dogs game, then damn, that's kind of a sucky way to end the series.
Give me 4 seconds and a clear signal. I can hack into anything. You think you're untouchable? You'll never see me coming.
Pre-order the game nu. Watch Dogs. 60 minuten extra gameplay. Exclusief voor...
So middle of the road is going to be really hard. A few years ago, I would have put in my number one option here, but I think after a few years, I'm going to have to put Watch Dogs, the first one in 2014, into the middle of the road pack for it. Now, just because I'm putting Watch Dogs in the middle section here doesn't mean that I think it's like a mid-game or anything. In fact, I actually think it's actually a tremendous game. It's actually a fantastic game. But here's the reason why I'm going to put it in this second tier. The hype around Watch Dogs was absolutely insane. It was seen as like this hacking version of GTA. And that E3 trailer, you see Aiden in the middle of the road, hacking everything and stuff. It was beautiful. And I think the big problem with Watch Dogs with that whole gameplay trailer and expectations is that even 10 years later, there are still people who said they were very disappointed in this game because this game was really hyped. Everyone was really excited for it, but it just didn't deliver as some people wanted to, like we saw in that E3 trailer. Adding to the fact there's not really a lot of stuff to do to make me come back to it. I mean, yeah, we have a ball game, we got a drinking game, we got cards, we got racing and everything like that, but there's really nothing to just do for me to like say I want to 100% this game and everything like that. I mean, there's some cool collectibles. I like the weapon shipments. You can get the Silent Spec Ops, which is a pretty good option, as you see me here using it in this gameplay. But I think what the first Watch Dogs actually does good compared to the other two Watch Dog games is that the story is actually very good. See, the story of the first Watch Dog game plays like a movie. You play as Aiden Pierce, the vigilante in Chicago, who's trying to avenge the death of his niece, Lena. And he goes on this revenge tour. He finds out new secrets, makes allies, makes enemies. It's very interesting. And I think the character of Aiden actually is a really good representation of how to make a protagonist who's actually very tragic, but entertaining and interesting at the same time. Now, I know people, they're like, oh, Aiden's the worst protagonist. He doesn't make any jokes. Well, I think you need to understand the situation. You see, Aiden is a very broken man. He really doesn't have time to joke. He feels like he's burdened by the fact that he got his niece killed and that he's trying to protect his sister and his nephew because he has something left to lose. He wants to find the people that hurt him, and he just has no time. He just wants to fuck everything up and stuff like that. So I think that makes his character very compelling. And they weren't afraid to tackle some serious topics. They talked about human trafficking. We saw a human slave auction and everything like that. The right of free will, the technology taking over. They tackled some pretty heavy stuff in there. And besides Aiden, there's actually some really other good characters. T-Bone is actually awesome. Claire had a little bit more potential, but she was still good. Jordy is an absolute Chad, and I love him. I'm glad he came back to the other games. I'll even add in some of the villains are actually pretty good. Lucky Quinn was a nice representation of the mob boss. You had Iraq, who was the gang leader of Chicago, and then you have Damian Brinks, who's connected to Aiden, and he turns out to be the final boss of the game, which was a pretty cool twist with that. The gameplay mechanics of Watch Dogs also are a big factor of why this game is still at number 2. I do like the hacking elements. The mini game's pretty fun. Some of the options you can do to escape cops, cause total blackout. It's just so much fun to have. But again, I find it in the middle tier because there's so much hype around it, and we thought we were going to get so much with it. But the game itself is actually good. I actually recommend going back and playing it. I believe it's like you get it for $10 now on any platform you play it on. You can have so much fun with Watch Dogs 1, but it's just going to be sitting at this number 2 spot.
You want to spaz if you want to spaz if you want spaz if you want to
spaz if you want to.
And number 1, you probably guessed this since I put the first game on the second tier, is going to be 2016's Watch Dogs 2. Now, at the time, in 2016, I thought Watch Dogs 2 was terrible. I thought it was the worst sequel, to come after Watch Dogs, because it was just so good with the tone. I'm like, what is this hipster bullshit? So I played it once, and then I stopped. I never played it again for the Xbox. But fast forward on the launch to Watch Dogs Legion, I figured, hey, it's Watch Dogs 2's on sale for $10, the gold edition. Let me grab it. And I gotta say, Watch Dogs 2 is possibly the best game in the series in terms of what it has to offer. So you may be wondering, what do you mean, what does it have to offer? I'm gonna say it has a lot of stuff to do. There's so much content in Watch Dogs 2, and it trumps both Legion and 1 having the most replayability out of all 3 Watch Dogs games. You can race, you can hack, you can rob armored trucks, you can start wars, you can swap people, you can do side quests, you can be an Uber driver, you can visit Alcatraz prison, you can go on the Golden Gate Bridge, you can tag places. There is so much stuff to do that you will keep going back and you will do some stuff in the game. And it's just really, really fun to play. And although the story isn't as powerful as the first one, there's still some pretty entertaining moments. The characters in this game actually are pretty fun to play as. Our new protagonist, Marcus Holloway, he's charismatic, he's fun, he's kind of like the nerd. He's the nerd, and he's kind of all of us playing the game, and it's really, really cool. Wrench, we are also introduced to Wrench, who appears later in Watch Dogs Legion in the DLC and the main game. Absolute awesome, chaotic energy, and he's just so cool. We also get introduced back to T-Bone, who ends up back in San Francisco, do other things. We also have Sataria, Josh, and Horatio, part of the new DedSec crew in San Francisco, because you're playing as DedSec this time, and you work your way to try to gather as many followers for the DedSec app to take down Bloom, who you're going against the guy, I forgot his name, but yeah, Watch Dogs 2 villain is not really as compelling as the first game, because it's just Google, pretty much, just Google CAO. One thing about Watch Dogs 2 that actually makes me really love it too would have to be the weapon customization. So you may be wondering, what's the weapon customization in Watch Dogs 2? Well, you got a 3D printer and you can 3D print your guns. Simple as that. You can make marksman rifles, you can make assault rifles, you can make tasers, you can make an RC drone, RC plane, you can make pistols, you can make grenade launchers. The world, that kill box is your kill box. And the DLC was awesome too. They brought back Geordie Chin from the first game and the Human Conditions DLC, which was a really fun one. Then they have another DLC that all these missions you can play in any order you want. Because the main goal is to get as many followers as you can to get to the last mission. And I think that's what made Watch Dogs 2. It has great replayability and it's just so much fun to play. So much content. You'll definitely have a good time. If you wrote this game off back in 2016, I recommend giving it another playthrough because it is definitely most fun of all 3 of the games. Alright, so that's going to be my ranking for all 3 of the Watch Dogs games. So, like I said, never say never. Maybe the series is just on hiatus because Legion did not do that well critically or financially, but I can always see them going back to making another 4th game to kind of tie up some loose ends or introduce some new ideas, you know? Maybe bring back a couple of new characters, make a new story, have it be its own entity. I don't know. The opportunities are endless. So let me know down in the comments below, do you like Watch Dogs? What's your favorite Watch Dogs game and what's your least favorite Watch Dogs game? And do you want a Watch Dogs 4? Let me know and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace!
This is fun! Hello!